It weren't shepherd's pie.
Huh? What was it?
Cottage pie.
What's the difference?
Shepherd's pie is lamb mince and cottage pie is beef mince. So in actual fact, that was neither.
They were cottage pie. I should know. I made it.
Well, it was nearly a cottage pie, but the cheese toppers turned it into a Cumberland pie.
It was cottage pie with cheese.
Cumberland.
Who made you the captain of the pie police?
Oh, don't get him started. According to him, strawberries are not berries, but bananas are.
I don't write the rules.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
Hello and welcome to episode 212 of The Talk of the Street, an unofficial Coronation Street catch-up podcast that inserts new weekly attempt at witty introduction here. I'm Gavin. Oops.
And I do not give a fuck.
Welcome.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. It's been a while.
Yes.
Have you missed it?
No.
Not the slightest.
It's been bliss.
It's been, I think we missed 2 episodes.
You
We missed 2 episodes
weeks?
of the podcast, 2 weeks of the...
Yeah.
2 weeks of the show.
Yeah.
We were gallivanting around the southwest of the United States.
We were thinking, oh yeah, we'll bring stuff. Maybe we'll record a podcast. Maybe we'll do one from the road. It'll be fun. And then we actually got on vacation and said, nope. We're on vacation.
This is...
Fuck y'all.
Well... welcome y'all back.
Yes, welcome y'all back.
But
and you did like tweet out pithy things occasionally while we were on the road. So
my pith
people were not completely neglected.
Right. My pith was distributed as normal. Yeah, I guess those intentions were genuine because I bought little lapel mics especially for whether we did it in the car, which I thought would have been a great idea, or in a hotel room, which would have been, we've done that before. Mm-hmm. But you just remember you're on vacation.
Right.
and
the whole purpose of vacation.
Right. I'm not saying that this is work, but...
It is work. It's work we don't get paid for, but it's work.
But it's a regular activities, regular home activities
right.
that we were spending some money to get away from. So
right, yes.
I think it was maybe on the Sunday, the first Sunday, I was like, nah, let's just, because I'm on vacation where we're driving about, we're looking at incredible sights and scenery and stuff, and I find myself trying to figure out how we're going to record a podcast. I'm like, you know what, this isn't a great way to spend your vacation.
No.
Worrying about.
No.
That's the thing. So.
Yes.
Line in the sand, we ain't going to do it.
Right.
And you've gone further by not watching any of the episodes that we missed.
Except for this week's.
Right.
Yes.
So when I'm doing my recap, once again I'm going to sneak something there that didn't happen and see if you can spot what it is.
I have read enough recaps and spoilers, etc., to know pretty much what was going on. So it's fine. But people who listen to our other podcast,
the list of lists,
yes, may know that I've done this thing where this year I'm going through the filmographies of different actors,
right?
And it's starting to become more difficult to find the few things that are remaining for the actors that I'm doing.
Right.
But I have, so even that, like, we would get to the hotel at the end of the day and I would like attempt after you fell asleep to like watch a movie or a special or something that I am missing from one of these people. And even that, even just doing one a day when we were at home, I typically try to do 4 or 5 a day. Even one a day, I was like falling asleep.
Yeah,
before things ended,
doing stuff.
I was diligently trying to keep up with my Duolingo and learning Espanol and would take a shower at night and then sit in the bathroom and do it because you were asleep and I didn't want to disturb you with my Espanol as you slept.
Yeah.
And even that, by the end of our vacation, I'd kind of given up on. So it's not just this that I was like, you know what, we're on vacation. I'm not going to commit myself to doing all of the things that I do on a regular basis when we were at home. You know.
Yeah, which is what I said like 3 minutes ago.
Right, and I'm just confirming that.
Confirming
in my own special way.
An agreement.
Yes.
A slower way of saying that.
We did have fun though.
We did.
Yes, we posted a few pictures on the Twitter. Sorry, folks on Facebook and Instagram and all the other places we're
Facebook's
at.
dead. Let's just say it now.
But, you know, we saw the Grand Canyon. We went to the Arches. We saw the car wash from Breaking Bad.
Those aren't the three highlights in order, are they?
Yes.
Wow.
We went to the Stanley
Wow.
Hotel, the inspiration for The Shining, but not where The
Not
Shining
where the film was
movie
filmed, which I think I was under the misapprehension or the misguided knowledge thing of that this is because it looks like
It's cool.
the hotel from the movie.
It's very
not.
cool.
It's the hotel from the miniseries that nobody watched.
And also from Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah.
And also was the inspiration. That's where Stephen King was inspired to write The Shining.
Yeah, lots of lovely things seen in Colorado, Utah, Arizona, and New Mexico, which leaves me just with Oregon in the continental US to see, and you're left with
Nevada.
Nevada.
So that's next summer's vacation, Nevada and Oregon. It's nice that they're attached
Right,
tangentially.
through a desert.
Yes. We love deserts.
Well,
We love it when our hybrid car dies in deserts.
yeah, that's good fun. Thankfully,
Thankfully, there were plenty of Native American casinos for us to, you know, escape to when things died.
this to me was validation of my vacation planning, which is for every 4 days of planning a journey, I throw another day in there
Right.
just to cover in case we like something so much that we want to hang around or shit happens.
Right.
So we had to use one of those shit happens days
Right.
when the hybrid died.
Yeah.
Never buy hybrids. Gas
Or-
all the way.
No, that's not what we're preaching here. So yeah, it was a lovely break. I would have liked to have maybe spent a little bit more time in Utah, but that's all right. You know, we ain't dead yet, so there's always an opportunity
Yep, give it a year.
to go
To
back.
go back.
Right.
Because again, that kind of joined on.
Right. And you have Route 66 tattooed on your arm
I
now.
don't know how that happened.
How'd that happen?
I woke up.
Woke up in Colorado Springs on a table and a man was tattooing the Route 66 sign on
I'm
your
like,
arm.
not this again. And you have a taco turtle.
I do have a taco turtle on my ankle.
Do you know, I was saying to one of my co-workers yesterday, it's like, I'm not having a midlife crisis. It's just that this year I've got tattooed again and have 3 guitars now. So anyway, shall we preamble, my dear?
Yes, please.
Give us some of that vacational Corrie news.
Now let's all remember that this is spanning like almost 3 weeks.
I'm
so some
wondering
of
if we're
this,
getting 9 items today.
some of this may be old hat. You wish. First and foremost, most important news of all. We're gonna start with the best. With the best news. Mazel tov to Joe Datine and Sally Carmen, who finally, after a 2-year engagement,
Huzzah!
have tied the knot. The bride wearing a beautiful blue dress and the groom wearing a page boy hat.
I like the hat. I really did like the hat.
It reminds me of that hat that Stelly has, the
Kind of
pink
Peaky
one.
Blinders hat, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's what Newsies wore on the streets of New York City in the
Right.
1920s.
Hey, mister, read all about it.
Brooklyn!
And etc., etc.
Etc. Tanisha Gorey, our Asha, has made another milestone to adulthood as she buys her first home with boyfriend Lucas.
Oofed.
We wish her years of no leaking roofs or the upstairs toilet making that funny singing noise.
Wow, that is impressive.
That's pretty huge. How
Wait,
old were you
I
when?
was about to ask you the same thing. I was 24.
22.
24 when I got my first mortgage. Oh,
I was 22.
24.
Nick was still a baby when Eli and I bought the house on Waldo Road.
See, I think 24 was still pretty young.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Tanisha is younger than both, I would imagine.
Yes. Yeah, she's 20.
Wow.
So still good on her.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
that's a great investment.
Especially in this day and age, am I right?
Yeah, seriously. Seriously. Our 22-year-old, oh, he's not 22, he's
Our 22-year-old last year. 2 years ago. He's in his mid-20s now.
And finally, Tony Maudsley thanks strangers who helped him out when his car was smashed into by a lorry in a hit and run.
Who does a hit and run in a lorry? Or truck, if you prefer.
A lorry driver who doesn't want to face the financial responsibility of smashing into a TV star's car. He posted this on Twitter. He's like, who smashed into my car? Somebody smashed into my car and took off. And these two strangers just happened to have seen it and was able to help him.
Oh, wasn't there a chase? Or some kind of low-key pursuit?
Probably.
I think
the
they
lorry
followed
driver was
the-
caught. Yeah.
They followed the driver to get his reg number.
Right. Yeah. The kindness of strangers.
And the dickishness of lorry drivers.
Right.
Sorry, lorry drivers, but you know.
Poor Tony Maudsley.
Yeah.
First Maria squirts hairspray into his face, and now this.
Was it hairspray?
I think it was hairspray. It wasn't mace. The can was too big.
I thought it was pepper spray and he recovered very quickly. But anyway,
Yeah.
I guess we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Or maybe we won't. I don't know what my notes say.
Ooh. Well, it's from this week, so I'm hoping we get to it.
In that case, I do mention
Yeah.
it.
All right. And that's Corrie News.
That's Corrie News, which I think tradition dictates then leads us on to, well, podcast for coffee. Now, we've been on vacation,
We have.
as have our coffee buyers, it seems.
Really?
We're drinking our own coffees this morning.
I'm surprised because the last time we went on vacation, people bought us coffees so that we would have fancy coffees in... Where did we go to vacation last?
Tennessee.
Oh, Tennessee. That's right. We're getting fancy coffees in Nashville.
You know how we nearly died on the interstate when we were going between Nashville and Memphis?
Yeah, I have...
That was I-40, which we were on in Arizona for like a day and a half.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
No.
It's like it's the same road.
No.
You continue driving that road, you end up in Memphis and nearly dying.
We were also on Route 66, which goes from Illinois to
Los
Arizona,
Angeles.
all the way to
Oh, it used to anyway.
Paloma,
Doesn't
or
anyway.
however the song goes.
Anyway, we're drinking our own
It's
coffees.
a massive country.
I'm drinking my coffee out of a, oh, would you believe it's the Talk of the Street bannerhead mug.
I would believe. You know how I would believe?
Because you brought it in.
Yeah, I'm the one who poured that cup of coffee for
Yeah, I
you.
was like, what you want? Bringing me coffee.
I'm just a nice person who's married to you. You do nice things for me sometimes,
Yeah,
too.
well,
Occasionally.
it has been known. Wow. What are you drinking yours out of?
What is that even supposed
I've
to
just cleared my throat. Wow.
Oh, it's one of those my dad's ex-fiance Pam's cups.
Wonderful.
Yes.
If you want to buy us next week's coffee, like if this segment has encouraged you to throw us $5, you can do so by going to ko-fi.com, that's ko-fi.com/the Talk of the Street, and we will be very appreciative.
Yes, we will. This oat milk creamer is not cheap.
And now on to Helen's favourite section, YouTubes. Now
that's a sound
need-
I haven't missed.
I need a special sound here.
Uh-oh.
I've
No,
fallen.
not
that
that
one.
sound,
and I
not that sound.
can't get up.
We're sending help immediately, Miss.
No, not that one. One of these. Now I need. No.
Ow!
No, not that. No, definitely not that. Nope. Do you know what? I think I've recorded over all the others, so we're just going to have to
Is
go
this a
with.
shtick?
Oh, I need a celebratory noise. Well, I guess that'll do. In the kingdom of the blind. So, we broke through 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, which means that
We can
What?
monetize now.
quitting the day job
We can monetize. Okay, now this really is my favorite section.
Yep. $1 a month. Can't wait. Anyway, that's taken us about a month and a half longer than I thought it was going to take. But still, 1,000 subscribers. That's
Huzzah.
like if you got 7 million people in a room, one of them, statistically, is subscribed to our YouTube channel.
Wow.
That is wow. That is amazing. Wow.
It is amazing when you consider how many people
Are in the world.
are left on this world after the pandemic.
After it happened. Yep.
Yeah.
So, despite all that excitement, despite all that activity, nothing much happened on the YouTube channel over the last couple of weeks because we were on
'Cause we were on
vacations. I
vacation.
think we've mentioned. We have returned though this week with the ever popular last night's Corrie in under 4 minutes. And then I threw in an extra 30 seconds of characters being confused by that London. If any of that tickles your fancy, head over to youtube.com/the Talk of the Street podcast, smash that subscribe button, and circle the M5 of that notification bell.
Woohoo!
And now, this.
Welcome.
Oh, welcome to Last Year Tonight with me, John Oliver. Just enough time to quickly talk about Gentleman George.
This has something to do with The Undertaker.
Your prize is in the post.
And probably Eileen.
That's right, this was Sean doing his best to curry favour for The Undertaker with Eileen.
Yes.
Or from Eileen.
Yes,
Oh,
there was
Gentleman
this-
George.
Yes, where he and Todd were both talking up The Undertaker for some reason.
So that The Undertaker and Eileen could make sweet, sweet love.
Yes, but I don't know what's in that for Sean.
Let's not pick at that scab too much. I was Gavin and you were, you got what I need.
Oh, it's been a year since Biz died.
Right, I now know what Bismarcky is. Last year I didn't.
R.I.P. to Biz.
Because I thought that his last name, Marquis of the Newport Marquise, was spelled Marquee. As in a marquee. Not marquee, basically. We lamented the passing of celebrities from our younger years in their 40s and 50s. So it was a cheery start to the show. You went on about Wilford Brimley again. And
I
yet
always do that.
couldn't remember Brad Pitt's name. Because Brimley did Cocoon at the same age as Pitt did Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Correct.
A tile had fallen on your head, which explains quite a lot of this.
Yes, and now Brad Pitt's going to be running through a bullet train in a
Can't wait
couple
for
of weeks.
that. I can't wait for that.
That'll be fun. And he punches one of those Japanese mascot things in the face.
Yeah, it makes a squeaking noise.
It does.
It's hilarious.
Yes.
Ryan wakes up in Daisy's bed and Daisy wakes up in Ryan's shirt, and his plans to make sure that Alia doesn't find out about this is lucky to make it beyond the first commercial break. Eileen and George are looking to put the past behind them until an errant caviter and a man who says, "Oh," have them at each other's throats again. I remember that man that said, "Oh."
Yes, because he had a dead mother.
Oh, he sounded like Alan Bennett. Oh.
Yeah. It was one of those comedy characters in Corrie that maybe don't work very well.
Curtis seems way too keen to sign up male residents of the street to a charity Scuddy calendar for Oliver's fund. That was when we thought that was what was up with Curtis. Fiz is encouraged to get her dating app profile out there, and it isn't long before she gets a bite from a catfish. Natasha is ready to trust others with Sam, but confusion over an invite leaves others disappointed. Poor Natasha. Todd schemes to scrape money together to pay off Will and once again manages to damage Paul's relationship with Summer in the process. Nick buys a superfluous blender. Marcus's mum needs to learn how to make a decision. I can't remember who Marcus is. And the bishop is not happy. Our moment of the week was Fiz standing up for herself against Tyrone, and our boring moment of the week was that Nick buying a blender thing. And that was Coronation Street and the Talk of the Street this time last year.
Where is that Fiz now? That's what I want to know. Where is that Fiz now?
Where are the fizzies of yesteryear? Now, a little Joseph Heller quote there, so early in the podcast. Right.
Oh,
Now,
my
I'm
darling.
going to try and recap
2 weeks
2 weeks
at a day. 2 weeks at a day.
in one breath. No chance.
And that recap is...
Yeah, shit happened. So these are the storylines that don't
Really?
feature this week.
Okay.
So the storylines that do feature this week I'll cover when we talk about those storylines. So the three
Okay.
things that happened that we don't speak about at all this week are...
Because they are unspeakable.
Right. Toya goes back to work, but Sarah sends her home to stop the clients complaining. Joe LaFoe had a problem with it, apparently. Maria announces that the strike is over, but the council are going to landfill the recyclables anyway, which gets Toya involved, and she puts out messages to her activist network, which is still a thing.
Yay.
During a protest, Toya hijacks a bin van. Yes. Just as her first love, Spider, reappears to help and talk her down. Toya puts him up for the night, which makes Kelly and others suspicious and angry that she's already put Imran behind her. Ed comes round to see her and gives her a stay of execution for the rent because she still owes rent money.
Yes.
She helps Spider break into the old brewery to squat ahead of the big protest thing by stealing the keys from the bistro, which doesn't make Leanne happy.
No.
They're rumbled by Debbie and Ronnie, but Spider and his crew leg it before Toya's name is dragged into it, or the police are called. Meanwhile, Toya gets a call from George about Imran's ashes, and ridden with guilt, she throws Spider out. She tells George to give the ashes to Syra, and then Debbie and Adam see this exchange and think worse of Toya. Toya, meanwhile, has a change of heart, but Syra has already buried the ashes with Rana. That's what happens in that storyline. It'll be a shame, but it did feature
Spider.
Spider, which was great, but he seems to be gone now again. And
That doesn't make any sense.
no,
That doesn't make any sense because they've been talking this up and talking this up and talking this
we
up.
were all quite excited about this.
Right.
And we were excited to see him again.
Yes.
And then he just hung about for a week and a bit and then fucked off. As spiders are wont to do.
Yeah.
But it did also feature Toya in a bin lorry. Yeah.
Did she make the like face that she was like so excited to be driving a bin lorry? That's
No.
who ran into Tony's car.
Right.
It was Toya.
Thorne cons Simon into handing over the dictaphone with his confession and then fakes the $100,000 bank payment transfer. They can't get a hold of Peter, so Simon apparently gets the dictaphone and gives it back to Thorne
Why?
because he's an idiot. Peter is furious at Simon for fucking everything up. Peter realises he was harsh and apologises and encounters Thorne again and smashes his car up in anger with a golf club. Adam having to come to the rescue. Peter reignites his fury at Simon for fucking up his chances of nailing Thorne, but not like that, and getting compo, but like that. He doesn't understand why Carla isn't as pissed off about any of this as he is. Then he picks up Nikki from the police station. Turns out that she's not in Spain after all, and she never mentions it. And the show has forgotten that she was supposed to be there. And instead, she was apparently fighting with an ex-punter and got arrested. Peter tells Daniel that Nikki needs his support, but he is more concerned about Daisy. And this seems to rile Peter. And that's as far as that goes.
Yeah. Apparently Nikki is completely out of the show now though.
Yeah, she made that clear on the socials.
Yes, she did.
Hope she comes back at some point.
Yeah. I guess. I'm just glad because there was also speculation that she and Peter were going to hook up and Peter was going to impregnate her and all this other stuff.
Yeah,
And
there
it's
was a bit of a look of it when the two of them were in the taxi together.
Ugh.
But thankfully that isn't going to happen.
Thank God.
Or at least it doesn't happen this week. Summer and Aaron still haven't gone to Barcelona because that's where they were going on their holiday, remember?
Was that where they were going on their holiday? So not only were these two minors going on holiday together, they were going to leave the country together.
Right, to Barcelona.
Barcelona.
She's still stressed about her beach body, so she wants to go on an excursions-based vacation instead of a beach vacation. I don't think there is a beach in Barcelona, is there? Well, it is on the coast, I guess. Aaron can't afford that, and neither Summer nor Billy are contributing anything to the costs. Then Aaron gets notification that they've received a free water sports upgrade because that happens. And this dictates that Aaron and Summer say water sports to each other quite a bit. Summer continues to scoosh her insulin down the sink because she learns nothing and is worried about getting fat. Meanwhile, we learn that Aaron is a trained mechanic, and following a 5-second conversation with Kev, he manages to snag a job at the garage. Aaron cancels the water sports, so Summer starts taking her insulin again, but then Aaron takes a shit on the coffee table.
Tell me that didn't happen. That didn't really happen. The shit on the coffee table. That did not really happen.
That
And
is the bit that didn't happen.
curse you for saying Aaron takes a shit on the coffee table
Do you know,
when my mouth was full of coffee.
I wasn't going to say that until you took a drink of your coffee. So that's what we call improv.
You're an asshole.
I am indeed. And that brings
Why
us
do
on
I
to-
bring you coffee?
to this week's hard debate.
So it's a hard poo, not a soft poo.
Oh, well, that's probably better.
It's for the best.
Certainly better for the cameraman. Our hard debate this week was, what was your favourite era of Kev's bomber jacket? Was it 1999, which I think, according to Chris Anstey, is when it was first debuted, 2004, 2012, or 2021? What was your favourite era, Helen?
Never. I hate Kev. I think I've made that clear.
The bomber jacket's done nothing wrong though, right?
It's guilty by association.
This is an ongoing poll, but with 5 hours left, 1999 is way out in the lead with 50%, followed by 2004, then 2012 and 2021. So it's we're very much favouring the classic look of the bomber jacket.
When it wasn't faded and gross. When it was brand new.
Yeah, 1999 got 50%, 2004 25, 2012 14.3, and 2021 just 10.7, still pretty decent.
Even 1999, that seems a bit past the craze of the bomber jacket. Because wasn't that like
have bomber jackets
early
ever
90s?
Have they ever gone out of style though?
Yes, in 1999. That's probably why he has it. It's because it was on sale.
All right, we have so much to get through,
We
and
do.
we've barely touched the surface. Now we're going to talk about this week's first storyline,
Okay.
which is Operation Fizbomb. And we're going to talk about the last couple of weeks of that first. So Fiz worries that her wedding is cursed when she snags her veil, and Hope hates her bridesmaid's dress and Phill sees the dress. Mimi moves in with Fiz because Mimi's back. Thank God Mimi's back. With Fiz ahead of the wedding and trips over Cerberus, which requires her to take a trip to the hospital. Evelyn is sure that she's faking and will later kick her cane away in an attempt to prove it, but it doesn't look like she is. Hope is not happy about the wedding, which everyone ignores. The girls' bridesmaids' dresses get covered in wine, and Evelyn and Fiz blame Mimi, ignoring the other obvious guilty party.
Which would be Hope.
Yep. Then Phil's ex-wife shows up, Camilla, and Mimi also gets the blame for inviting her along.
Along with her husband, Prince Charles.
Oh,
God, that was spot on. Well done.
it's a kind of mid-coital Prince Charles.
God, I don't want to think about that. No.
Meanwhile,
I will never have sex again.
Ty, who has been a shoulder for Fiz through all of this, declares his love for her and asks her to think about giving him another chance. She says that she'll always love him but can't trust him with her heart. At the hen night, Camilla has been invited along because she's brought a wedding present, and she ruins Maria's Mr. and Mrs. game by knowing everything about Phill. She leaves and has a rendezvous with Phill, telling him that she rushed to him when she got his email, but he doesn't think that he sent her an email.
Yeah.
But from the other end of the street, it looks like Phill is cheating on her, but he explains to Fiz and Evelyn later, and so with Phil's backing, Mimi is banned from the wedding for causing all this mess and inviting Camilla to come and try and break them up. Later though, we see Hope on her iPad sending more emails, surprise, surprise. She also manages to cancel the registrar. She proudly comes clean to Tyrone on the morning of the wedding and he grasses her up to Fiz and Phill, and Mimi is off the hook. Hope, by the way, receives no punishment for any of this.
Of course not.
And I don't think she's been punished for destroying Phil's car either.
No.
Ty gives Fiz Vera's pearl earrings as her something old, and the wedding eventually goes ahead at a secondary venue, and Fiz, despite some doubts, marries Phill. At the reception though, she tells Phill that she doesn't love him and she's leaving him, and she heads straight round to see Tyrone and they winch. What have I said all the way through? I never wanted this to happen. Never wanted them to get back together again.
No, we don't want them to get back together
But
again.
Of course they're going to get back
This
together
is
again.
so fucking ridiculous and stupid, and I hate it.
But
I hate it so much.
They're going to get back together again so that at Christmas,
Alina can come back with that baby.
with Ty's baby.
Right, yes, and break them up again. And Phill has never cheated on her, has always been a good guy. He was a little bit misguided with that whole state thing, but that was so brief and so stupid.
He had an idea for a book. That was the worst thing that he did.
Right.
It was a notion.
He forgave Hope for destroying his car. He became friends with Tyrone. He bought her a house. She was in love with him this whole time. Christmas, when Tyrone tried to winch her, she pushed him back and said, "Nuh-uh, sorry, no longer interested. You fucked up. We're done." And when he, as you said, when he first confesses his love to her like the day of her wedding or the day before her wedding.
Day before.
What does she say? I'll always love you because we have kids together, but it's not like that and never will be again. And then all of a sudden, the next day, she changes her mind.
Vita's pearly rings.
After over a year of her not wanting anything to do with him and becoming this great, strong woman who has finally learned her self-worth because she's finally with a partner who acknowledges her worth and doesn't treat her like garbage. And what does she do? For no reason.
Well, so at Christmas.
Shut up. I hate this. I hate this so much. And this is really the reason. This is the main reason why I was like, you know what? I'm going to watch this week's, but I'm not going to watch
It's a shame
any further back.
because they actually did the wedding really, really well. It was great fun.
I heard the guest list was confusing.
The guest list was very confusing. The fact that Chesney wasn't there because he had the lurgy and stuff, and I think Gemma was there, but
Not her brother.
And the quads weren't there, and I think was Kirk there. I can't remember. It was all kind of crazy. But the main thing is that Mimi and Evelyn were there, and they sang karaoke, and it was great.
Give them a show.
Right. So they had the periphery of this wedding was really entertaining, despite the fact that some notable people were missing. But the actual
Chesney.
the point of the outcome of it, because it
So
looked like
stupid.
during the vows, it looked like Fiz was going to back out at that point,
Right.
but she didn't,
No.
and she married him,
Right.
and then she backed out.
Right. And that's not what you do.
No,
What it just, it makes her look bad. It makes her look, like a cow.
to Phill with two L's,
To poor Phill with two L's. It makes her look weak. It makes it look like all of this growth we've seen in this character over the past year or so. Learning her own self-worth.
that big reset button has been sat on.
Right. It's so dumb, and I hate it so much. I hate it so much.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it either. I was very adamant that they shouldn't get back together again. The reset button shouldn't be pushed.
No. And
It's like, if you're going to break a legacy couple up like this, keep them broken.
right. Yeah. And they were working so well as co-parents.
Yeah, well, there was always little bits of opportunity for drama
Right.
there.
It worked. They worked as co-parents. They worked as like this triangle of trust between Fiz and Phill and Tyrone, where the three of them were working together to raise these girls. And unfortunately, no one ever punishes Hope, so she will continue on her path to become a serial killer,
Yes.
which is fine.
Sooner rather than later, please.
Whatever. And, we're going to get to it, but rightly or wrongly, it gives Hope this idea
Oh,
that this is how, that this is how she gets her way.
Mm-hmm.
That her tactics have succeeded.
Yeah, because she, as we will get to, we'll
get to it. All right, let's get into it,
let's
please.
fire in. So straight around to see Tyrone in the winch, and then Tyrone takes a shit on the coffee table. So now on the Monday. It's the morning after the wedding before Tyrone is ready to sneak out of his own house. Fiz, his only regret is not telling Phill sooner. They have a quick winch when Evelyn walks in and catches him, so they all sit down with a cup and discuss how weird it has been able to hear Fiz's wedding reception from the house without her being there. Tyrone is keen to tell the girls that they're back together, but Fiz warns him to call canny on that until she's spoken to Phill. Later, Fiz and Tyrone worry about how to break the news to Phill. Fiz reckons that an annulment is the way to go, seeing as they never had their post-wedding hole. It's the easiest way. And then there's a knock at the door, and it's Phill wanting to speak to Fiz, so Tyrone, nerves of custard, runs out the back door.
Now I have a question. The whole consummation thing.
Right.
Does that count if the couple has had sex before the wedding?
Yeah. That seals the deal.
But it feels like the deal was already sealed pre-deal.
There was no deal.
It doesn't make any
It was
sense.
just two sluts getting their hole off of each other. I don't mean that.
When I see Phill,
I don't mean that.
When I see Phill, the first word that comes to mind is slut.
Slag. Phill comes in and doesn't blame Fiz for what happened, calling it cold feet and thinking that they'll look back on this and laugh. No, I don't think so. Fiz maintains that she hasn't changed her mind and she wants an annulment. Phil's mood swings and he demands to know if she's bonking Tyrone, because if she is, she can fucking whistle for that annulment. There would be no worse betrayal because now Tyrone is like his best pal and stuff.
Yeah, it's weird.
That's not great for the poor best man that he had. Fiz swallows
Who was
dramatic.
the best man? Was it just some
weedy guy.
Oh, okay.
Fiz swallows dramatically and says it's not about Tyrone, and then she tries not to blink as she stares at Phill. She says that she just wasn't happy. Phill asks for a chance to have a conversation before making any rash decisions and asks that she meets him at the bistro for lunch. Surely shows him that much. Then Tyrone, brave as a mouse, comes in after Phill has left and Fiz fills him in.
But not like that.
And then tells him what happened. They have to keep the relationship secret until the annulment comes through. Isn't this an episode of Frasier? Asks Tyrone. Actually, it's several episodes of Cheers, says Fiz.
And maybe, a whole season of Friends.
Well, we'll get to that later. Tyrone heads to Dev's for flowers for Fiz and speaks to Evelyn, bringing her up to speed with events. Tyrone is determined to make it up to Fiz. Evelyn advises avoiding getting his hold of any Romanian bombshells as much as humanly possible.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Fiz has gone out for lunch with Phill. He's all dressed up, and when he claps his hands, a mariachi band appears out of nowhere.
And he's got a rose in his teeth.
And the mariachi band is singing We've Only Just Begun by that famous mariachi artist, El Carpenter. Phill shouts over the music to declare his love, and watching on, Debbie comes in her pants a wee bit. Worried that they might be about to lose their mariachi license, the band have moved on to Bambaleo and continue to play louder than Phill can speak while Debbie remains an orgasm in high heels.
Right, yes, that romantic song.
During a quiet rendition of
Bambaleo.
La Cucaracha, Fiz remains unmoved. Phil's great idea is to chat about this further on their mini-moon, he calls it. It's never a honeymoon, it's their mini-moon. Because I think it was just like a weekend away.
It would be Los Carpinteros.
Thank you, Google. Oh, sorry, thank you for those Spanish lessons you've been taking.
Sí.
He needs 2 weeks to prove to her how good they are together. If he can't change her mind in 2 weeks, he'll pay for the bloody annulment himself. Back home now, Tyrone comes in and Fiz fills him in.
But not like that.
And then tells him what happened, explaining about Phil's request for 2 weeks. Fiz reckons it'll be worth it in the end. Tyrone's desperate for his hold, but Fiz is more keen to remind Tyrone how no one can find out about them for the next fortnight.
Right, yeah. Yeah. And then what do?
Later, Tyrone meets Phill in the pub, and now Phill fills Tyrone in.
But not like that.
And then tells him what happened about the mariachi band and the 2 weeks thing. Seeing as Tyrone is such a great mate, Phill asks him to have a word with Fiz to try and convince her that Phill is worth another chance. So Ty runs home to fill Fiz in.
But not like that.
And then tells her what happened about his run-in with Phill with 2 L's. That's the last time I'm going to do that.
Oh,
Phill tells him...
it's not.
No, it's not. Phill tells him to report back that he tried but ultimately failed and she could not be swayed. To kill some time to make it look like he's put some effort in, Ty suggests that they nip off for a quickie. Fiz isn't sure that there's any other kind. And that's what they do.
Yeah,
So,
Fiz. Great decision there.
Fiz,
A guy that you acknowledge, he's not very good in the bedroom. That's the one you chose.
well, or maybe she's just joking. Because women joke when they say things like that, right? Right.
Sure.
Ty goes back to the Rovers.
Have I ever
and
said that
after-
about you? Have I ever said that about you?
Ty goes back to the Rovers, and after a number of low-level innuendos
Never.
from Phill, who hopes that Tyrone gave Fiz a good pounding and went to bat for him, and how he wants a blow-by-blow account.
But not like that, or
Tyrone-
that, or that.
Tyrone admits that he never gave Fiz a blowjob.
Well, I would hope not.
After a session at the early bird bingo, Evelyn gets home and has a word with Fiz. Fiz explains the lay of the land. They all need to keep quiet about her and Tyrone being back for 2 weeks. Been back, for 2 weeks. Evelyn suggests speaking to Phill, who up to now has largely been a reasonable man, and surely you'll understand, but Fiz insists that they stick to the plan, otherwise she won't get her annulment, and she'll have to wait a full year for a divorce.
Right. Plus,
Which is like, so what?
why would Phill understand when none of this makes sense?
What could possibly go wrong, says Evelyn. Meanwhile, Tyrone is back in the pub with her drunken Phill, who is kissing Ty's head and calling him his best fucking mate ever.
And how much he loves him.
And how the two of them are going to win Fiz back for Phill. On Wednesday, Tyrone and Fiz break the news to the girls that they're back together. What happened to not telling the girls?
Well, here's what happened. You know, they're like, we have to be really hush-hush about this, and we have to be really quiet about this. But then Fiz lets Tyrone spend the night, which is... And the girls heard him snoring, so the jig is up. Why would they do that? Why would they? We need to not arouse any suspicion. So why don't you spend the night?
Arouse.
I hate this so much. Not arousal. This storyline.
Hope takes credit for getting them back together.
Right.
And Fiz insists that they keep this quiet from now on. From now on, we don't tell anybody. From now on.
Yeah, because Hope is well known for being able to keep her mouth shut.
So from now on, though, that's it. We're telling nobody else, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody else finds out with us.
No.
So later, Tyrone meets Fiz on the street and pitches the idea of going to couples therapy again, probably on the basis that he knows that the Romanian tattoo is going to cause a fuss at some point. He says that he wants to learn from the mistakes of last time, and she agrees, and then Phill gives Ty a call. And the two of them meet later at the garage with the Undertaker to talk tactics about how that mariachi band bombed. Phil's idea is based on his rom-com VHS collection.
Oh, dear.
So later, and predictably, Phill has a boombox above his head, and with his belly poking out below his polo shirt, he's playing Peter Gabriel at the factory. Fiz sticks her head out the factory door and has a fit. He declares his love as the other knicker people congregate outside the factory, and Sally thinks it's lovely.
So nobody on the show, none of the writers, nobody thought to, actually research what love bombing means and discover that it's actually an abusive, it's a form of abuse and manipulation, and not something that you should be proud of for doing or wanting to do, and is a bad thing.
He's got his boombox and he's playing his wee tune.
Which is, well, it's not great.
But it gets worse.
It gets worse because then he does the thing from that movie that I hate.
Phill asks Fiz to fight for their love, doing the motions to the Cheryl Cole song, I think. And then moves from Say Nothing to Love Actually and plays Silent Night as he goes through the cards that have fallen in the wrong order, making it look like Phill is saying Fiz is beneath him and is full of wind. The knicker people get bored and go back to work. Back in the pub later, Tyrone helps Phill drown his sorrows. He's paid for the hotel and the mini-moon, so there's no refunds. So Phill has a brainwave and asks Ty to go with him, claiming it would be a laugh and they could figure out his next move. Ty goes back to the house.
And also fuck.
Like rabbits. Ty goes back to the house and tells Fiz about Phil's idea. She's outraged and is further outraged when Ty sheepishly admits that he's agreed to go. On Friday, Fiz and Tyrone are still arguing about the mini-moon and whether Tyrone should go on it or not, because that's a question. He promises to catch up with Phill and cancel. He gets Fiz wet by doing a passable Jack impression. Oh, Vera love. Oh no, it's my Prince Charles again.
That was not.
Oh, my Owen Wilson. Wow. At the garage, Tyrone is like a hen in a hot girdle and admits to Kev that he and Fiz are back together because we agreed not
Nobody
to
else is
tell
supposed to know.
anybody else. Just at that, Phill appears because that's why you don't tell him in public, because Phill is just going to appear. Tyrone makes up a story about having too much work to do and he'll be busy all weekend, so he can't go on the mini-moon. Kev's slow in the uptake but agrees. Phill looks crushed and borderline suicidal, so Tyrone changes his tune and says he'll see what he can do. Later at the pub, Phill reckons that if Ty can't go on the mini-moon, he won't go either, otherwise he'll just throw himself to his death. So maybe he should just stay in Weatherfield. So Ty agrees to go, and Kev shakes his head, probably jealous that he didn't get an invite.
Right, because he would also like to fuck.
Right, like a rabbit. Phill and Tyrone are off on the romantic getaway now. Kev enjoys ripping the piss out the pair of them, especially when Phill announces that he's made a mix CD, and it'll be Tops and Tails at the hotel.
Right, because
Or otherwise known as Soisant Neuf.
Because there's only one bed in a honeymoon suite.
Mm-hmm. Tyrone pretends that this is still a great idea. The first tune on Phil's CD is All By Myself. It's the wrong disc. And suddenly Phill has become Ross from Friends from season 6 onwards. Phil's room at the hotel is still decked out for a honeymoon as opposed to an outrageous amount of homosexual lovemaking. Whatever that looks like. Just a regular hotel room, probably.
Right, yeah, a honeymoon suite. They can get married now, you know.
Ty gives Fiz a call. He's in a dressing gown and face mask, and we see his tattoo again.
Right, which just confirms that Alina's coming back.
I think so.
Because this is the first time we've seen it.
I think so. It's certainly the first time since Alina
Granted, this is the first time we've seen Ty's legs in a long time.
It looks like he's enjoying himself.
He does look
with
like
his
he's
face
enjoying
mask.
himself with his face mask and the cushy robe. Remember the robe you had in Phoenix?
Well, I only had it on for a little while.
Yeah, it's true.
Phill is singing all by myself in the shower. He's locked himself in there since all the staff in the hotel thought the two of them were man gays. And that's as
And
far
on
as
their
we-
honeymoon.
That's as far as we get with that this week.
Which would be a better storyline.
50 minutes in. We're normally practically done by now. Story one done.
Wouldn't it be a better storyline if Phill left Fiz for Tyrone instead of Fiz leaving Phill for Tyrone? That would be a better storyline.
And Phill kind of pursues Tyrone. Tyrone insists that he's not gay, and then over a couple of weeks decides that he very much is.
Yes.
And then they just fuck like bunnies for the
Right, yeah.
until Christmas when Alina comes back.
I would like to
sees what's going on and then leaves without saying a word.
Or, hooks up with Fiz. I would like to see it. I would like to see it. Because
This is all being played for laughs.
because
Isn't it?
because I hate all of this, and yet I love Tyrone and Phill together.
So do I.
Because they are so adorable together and funny. They were funny, but they could be adorable and funny together without breaking Fiz and Phill up. This is the part that angers me. Breaking Phill and Fiz up does nothing
No. But
for these characters.
Tyrone and Phill here are very much the new Jack and Vera.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Kinda.
Yeah. And it's this. They've really backed themselves into a corner because Phill is a fan favorite now. People love Phill. We love Phill.
I don't know if Phil's going anywhere.
Right. So what are they supposed to do with him besides just this?
Well, he needs a reason to come back on the street because he doesn't live there.
Right.
Or work there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So they've backed themselves into a corner where they can't get rid of this character who is much beloved by people.
We better not get rid of
And
him.
let's be honest, them's thin on the ground lately these days.
A character that is just universally loved because I think Phill is
He's
universally loved.
universally loved. Yeah. They just killed off Imran.
I'm still not over that.
So we need somebody to fill Imran's shoes. And Phill is the only one tall enough to do so.
Right. Needs to work on that belly a little bit though.
No, I like the
But
belly.
hey, don't we all?
I like the belly. As you know.
All right, Horny McConaughey. Let's move on to our next storyline this morning, which is Warts and All. From the last couple of weeks, Stephen helps Gail and Audrey make up over grapes, while Stephen gets Tim's mum all hot under the collar. Under That'll do. This is continued the next week when the two of them chat about Italy in the pub. Tim's mum, incidentally, is talking about moving closer to Tim and Sally.
Oh, nice.
And Faye.
Yay.
Audrey talks about updating her will, which wakes David up, and he and Sarah go out of their way to mollycoddle their gran now. This was really funny. David's asleep on the couch. Audrey mentions, yeah, I'm thinking about maybe changing my will or whatever, and still on the couch, one of David's eyes opens. It was very well done.
David is very good on the couch.
That's what I've heard. She sees through it and decides to leave all her money to WARTS, which is a retail association that her late husband Alf, who died 25 years ago, loved. But it turns out that she's only joking about that just to rile everyone up a little bit. And she's going to put all the money into trust, with Stephen appointed the trustee. This is much to David's chagrin. David tries to get power of attorney via Adam, which Ken overhears, and he grasses David back up to Audrey. So David goes home and takes a shit on a coffee table.
Sounds like he's already taken a big dump on his gran.
Yeah, David's been an asshole again.
Right, yeah. And,
Which is fine.
Yeah, Stephen hasn't been around for a while. But honestly, who do you trust more with money, Stephen or Gail?
Well, Gail will spend it in Thailand on things that we're not going to talk about.
That's true.
On Monday, in Nina's roles, David still has sand under his foreskin about Stephen being put in charge of Audrey's trust fund. Sarah accuses him of being a drama queen and then heads off to work. But then Stephen, who doesn't work at the factory, turns up at the factory to see Sarah and bemoan that he and David aren't getting on. Sarah has to cut him short and she nips off to speak to the sales department, leaving Stephen alone in her office. And when she comes back, she finds that Stephen's nose is in the books. He's seen the price of that plane for silk and reckons that he has an idea how they can save some money and make a bit more profit. Buy from Stephen's company in Milan.
Ooh.
So
La la.
Stephen and Sarah haggle over the numbers, which represents a huge saving. Sarah explains to Carla, who is interested until it comes out that Stephen is Sarah's uncle. Carla doesn't think working with family is clever and puts a kibosh on it.
As long as it's somebody else's family, she has no qualms
Right.
about working with her own family.
If Sarah wants to line her family's nest, she'll have to open her own fucking knicker factory. And Sarah, like Rana in that very building, is crushed. Sarah drops round to the barbers to listen to David be a shit about Audrey's will and Stephen. He asks her to speak with Audrey, and she reluctantly agrees just to get him to shut up. It's obvious, and this makes Audrey more of a bad person, how much she loves Stephen. Just kind of accentuates how much she doesn't love Gail.
Yeah, it seems like they've made up, though. Gail and Audrey.
Yeah, but still, Stephen can't put a foot wrong, basically.
Right, yeah, because he's the boy.
Yep.
This happens in my own family. My mother loves you more than she loves me.
Yeah, I think that's true for most people. And the Rovers. Did I say that last bit about?
In fairness, that was not true of her other son-in-laws. So
Yeah, I'm very special.
you are special.
That's what my mum said anyway. In the Rovers, Stephen is shocked that Carla has put the kibosh on the silk deal. He tells Sarah that with the skill set that she's got, she's been wasted at that fucking factory. Sarah thinks this is the nicest thing anyone has ever said to her, ever. Oi, says Adam. Later, Sarah tells David that she's not spoken to Audrey. She doesn't see the big deal, and Stephen being the trustee of the fund, and if David wants to do something about it, he can bloody well do it himself. On Wednesday at number 8, Tim is still pissed at Audrey about Stephen and the trust. Gail
Tim? What does Tim have to do with any of this?
The next story is Tim. And then my eyes went down and saw Tim's Boaby.
What?
But not like that. At number 8,
What are you
David
looking at
is still
over there?
pissed at Audrey about, well, a doodle. At number 8,
Like that.
David is still pissed at Audrey about Stephen and the trust. Gail suggests a family lunch to welcome Stephen back. At the bistro, they toast Stephen. Nick has managed to dodge the meal at his own restaurant thanks to Sam, who has also dodged it for reasons. David wants to know who's
Well, none
paying.
of the kids are there.
No. David wants to know who's paying for this. Turns out it's Gail. David and Sarah bitch and moan at each other about money and Stephen, to the point that Audrey loses her temper and storms off, which reminds me, there's a bit from the last couple of weeks where Lily makes Audrey a I love you gran card,
Right.
hands it over, and then says to David, give me that $5.
Right.
And David's like, oh, yeah, oh, your pocket money. And
Right.
Lily was pretty funny in that.
Yes.
David thinks it's everyone against him. Stephen is upset that no one is thinking about Audrey and all this, and he storms off too, but not before David accuses him of trying to screw everyone over. Back at number 8, Audrey apologises to Stephen, but he thinks the cause for all this upset is clear. He thinks he's the source of all the tension, and in his best Ohioan accent, despite Audrey's protests otherwise, he thinks it's best if he goes back to Milan. So he leaves, which makes Audrey fucking furious when David and Sarah come back. She tells him that Stephen has left and David can't hide his glee. Audrey says Stephen has made her feel important for the first time in forever, and she leaves. And this leaves...
Fuck you, Gail.
Right, and this leaves Sarah and David and Shona to have a post-mortem about the whole affair. Shona suggests that David phones Stephen to apologise and ask him not to go, but that's way too obvious and so it's quickly ignored. David has a better, more complicated idea. If the problem was Audrey feeling important, which it wasn't, maybe there's another way that they can do that sans Stephen. And that's the end of that storyline for
What
this
do you
week.
think that means, Broomy?
I have no idea.
What would make Audrey feel important?
The love of her family. The unconditional love of her family without finances making it sullied.
How could they prove that?
By making a big Audrey cake. Or just buying her masses of gin.
And hope that she poisons herself with it?
Sure. You've clearly seen spoilers.
Maybe. Maybe not.
Well, If it's spoilery, I don't want to hear it.
Okay.
Yeah. Obviously, they're going to try and do something to win Audrey round. But again, here we go. We bring Spider back. Everyone's excited. He's gone in a week and a half. We bring Stephen back. Is he gone now? Is that Stephen gone?
I hope not, because, it costs money to fly from Ohio to the United Kingdom.
Ohio, Milan,
Canada.
right. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of Canadians complain about the accent.
Right. That he's got an American accent.
Right.
A Midwestern. The Midwestern American accent is fairly close to
close.
a Canadian accent.
It's close. When we go into...
We both say A
when we
a
go
lot.
When we go into Canada, I don't really notice a huge difference in
No.
the accents.
It depends upon which province you're in.
Right.
Right. Because in Montreal,
En français.
yeah, there's a bit of a French accent.
It is.
Whereas people from Ontario, they speak like they're from Minnesota.
Hey.
Eh?
Right.
And people on the West Coast, they talk like they're on the West Coast. Because it's all the same thing.
Whatever.
Northern California, Vancouver, same thing.
Right.
And people on Prince Edward Island talk like they're in an L.M.M. Montgomery novel.
You're comparing real life to a fictionalized and written accent?
Yes. They all speak like they're, in Anne of Green Gables,
Oh, okay. That works.
which is
Forsooth.
set in Prince Edward Island. Or PEI, as the kids are calling it these days.
Right. Hi,
Have we-
hi
have-
to Chloe from Nova Scotia.
Have we offended all of our Canadian friends yet?
I think so. I think we did that ages ago.
Eh?
Yeah.
What's it all about?
And I think this is supposed to be funny as well.
Is it?
David's ridiculous reaction to this. He doesn't want to go cap in hand to Stephen.
No.
Stephen's, look, I'm just taking care of this. It could be anybody, though.
Right.
And he's not going to be wanting to go cap in hand to anybody. He wants...
And it's totally ignoring the fact that he's not getting this money until his gran dies.
Mm-hmm.
So acting like this money is so important is saying to his gran that he wants her to die sooner rather than later.
Sarah has been an oddly calm and reasonable voice in all this.
And Nick just cannot be bothered because he has his own money, so he doesn't care.
Which it came out he stole from Elsa, which was funny.
Right. Yeah,
Because Stephen's like, holy shit, stuff's happened since I've been here last.
right. We're kind of the Nick in this situation, aren't we?
A little bit.
Yeah. Can we talk about Sarah's hair and how much her hairdresser hates her? What is going on there?
Well,
What is going on there?
I think she's just sick of people going on about Adam's hair all the time.
So
Sarah seemed to have hair on top of her hair.
right, yeah, it's obviously a hair extension. It's,
was it?
It's obvious. It's obviously something that somebody tacked to the top of her head, and I'm really confused as to why anybody thought that was a good idea.
It had a kind of Star Wars feel to it. I mean, not a Leia feel to it, but
Right? No,
Sarah could have been a character in a science fiction movie with that hairdo.
she could be in the Capital District in
There we go.
The Hunger Games.
There we go. That's science fiction.
yeah,
There we go.
dystopian science fiction.
Is there any other kind?
No. Star Trek is more positive. That's about it.
Yeah, it was a haircut and a half.
It
Well, not
was
a haircut, but you know what I
it
mean.
was distracting
'Cause, like,
and
what's
not
that?
in a good way. It's like, what is that thing on top of her head?
Why is Mimi's dog sitting on Sarah's head? Kinda, wasn't it? But kinder than that.
Yeah, I just
It's not her hair, so it doesn't matter.
no, it doesn't. It doesn't matter. I just hope that they give her a normal haircut next week.
Right.
And you hope that she's back in that leather skirt.
Leather trousers. Yeah.
Yeah. For some reason you like those.
All right, moving on. It's been... I can't believe it's been 2 weeks since we've last talked about Tim's Boaby, but let's do that now. On
we
Monday,
have to?
it's Sally's birthday, and Tim has put on a spread.
But not like that.
Croissants, cake, and a bit of fizz. They arrange for a bit of a splash
But not like that.
in the hot tub. So later in the hot tub, Tim is trying it on with Sally, which is against the therapist's advice. And then Tim announces that he's getting a boner. So they both rush out of the hot tub, back to the house, rather than just getting their hole in the hot tub.
Nobody wants to clean that.
Well, they're cleaning it. Well, Sally's cleaning it. But...
Right, yeah, and she doesn't want to.
So instead of doing the normal, sensible thing of having sex in a hot tub, they walk up the stairs, and that is enough to render Tim's Boaby useless. Sally thinks it was worth a bash, but Tim feels worse now than ever. He goes off for a walk to clear his head, by which he means go to the pub.
And masturbate.
Tim and Phill, who I don't think have ever spoken together, are chatting about women when Sally tracks a man down and asks for a private chat. She reminds him that they're husband and wife and are in this together. Tim seems to have perked up after his chat with Phill and agrees that they nip home for a meal based on the culinary styles of China and the Far East. On Wednesday. That would have worked better if I could say culinary.
Culinary.
There we go. On Wednesday in the pub, Sally has been listening to a podcast with Sting about his tantric sex cock, and it's given Sally some ideas. Tim is affronted because Aggie's at the bar with an earshot. Sally goes off to put a police playlist together, making Tim promise to listen to the podcast. And later, Tim...
He can't even get it up, and then she wants him to do tantric sex. Does she not understand that requires a lot of concentration and upper body strength?
Well, it seemed to be focusing on the looking into each other's eyes, but which Tim has already proved that he can't really do without laughing.
He can't. No. He needs hot water. This is what we've learned.
And a scoosh.
And a jet stream.
There we go. So Tim meets Aggie in the community garden and checks to make sure that she hasn't heard anything of what they were talking about earlier. She asks if he's okay, and he admits that there's still a problem. Aggie says Sally isn't likely to give up, and nor should he.
Right.
So for whatever reason, Tim goes home, checks that the house is empty, and hops onto a non-kinky porn site and knocks one out at the kitchen table.
Who Googles adult videos?
Normal stuff. Normal ones.
Normal ones. I don't think anybody searching for porn has ever said adult videos, normal ones.
Yeah, but go easy on the porn. Give me porn, but light. Porn light.
Would that be like erotica?
I think it'd be like softcore porn. I think you'd be wanting to look at
Cinemax.
A Scuddy Mag or whatever.
Right, but he takes his jacket off, so we know he's serious.
Right, this is
serious business.
Yep, this requires bare arms.
It's something to be ashamed of and to only do in privacy and not to let your partner know you're doing it because this is...
What about that doesn't say Tim?
Because this is 2022 and we're still ashamed of porn.
So when Sally comes home, she finds Tim full of the joys. He's cooking dinner, opening a bottle of wine, and while there's a weirdly familiar smell in the air, Sally is impressed at his new attitude. He reckons that he'll be smashing her against the headboard in no time at all. And that's as far as we get with that. So I don't know if every storyline that I see has to have something to do with addiction, but are we now going down the line of
sex
Tim
porn
is going
addiction?
to be addicted to pornography? Or that's the only way that he could get sexually aroused?
I hope not.
And do we have to see any of this in Coronation Street? Because a lot of this has been...
A lot of people have been complaining about the sex in this show, and it's like, it's a soap opera. What did you expect?
Yeah, but I don't know if I want Tim to be talking about his boner in a hot tub with Sally.
I didn't mind that.
I can do without it, I think.
You saw Titan. How are you squeamish about...
I'm not squeamish about it, I just don't think it should be in Coronation Street.
Why not?
Because it's 7:30. Well, 8 o'clock now.
I've seen far more shocking things on British television.
Yeah, but it's a 8 o'clock in the evening, 60-year-old show. It feels like it should have...
Gravitas? Have you
maybe
seen...
not gravitas, but maybe not appealing to the lowest common denominator, and it kind of feels like that's what it's doing here.
Is sex the lowest common denominator?
Why are you suddenly...
Because I'm shocked at your prudishness.
It's not prudishness, it should be better than low rent innuendo, and that's kind of what it's turning into a carry-on film.
Ollie said was... I'm starting to feel something down there.
Yeah, and then Sally says, "Oh, it isn't hard," and then looks in the camera, and then Sally says something about coming, and then looks right in the camera. I don't know. It feels a bit cheap.
I don't know. Having seen American soap operas.
Yeah, but this isn't an American soap
opera. I know.
I understand. No, it's not an American soap opera.
I understand that, but having seen having A, seen American soap operas, and B, been told by British friends of ours how puritanical America is and how much more open-minded and free with their sexuality they are over there in the UK. It makes me laugh when...
Well, when it comes to TV, that's undeniably true when it comes to TV. The stuff that you can show on... You can't have anybody say fuck on network TV here.
Yeah, but nobody watches network TV. They watch prestige television.
Plenty of people watch network TV.
My mother. That's it. And actually, no, not even my mother. She's cut the cord. She doesn't even have cable anymore. I don't know. You
do know. And what you know is that I'm right.
I don't know that you're right, because it seems kind of silly to me to be squeamish about these sorts of things.
It's not been squeamish about it. It's been squeamish about it in this show. I don't care. You can have as much sexual innuendo or full frontal nudity in anything else. I'll sit and watch it and be happy as Larry with anybody else. But not in this show. This isn't that show.
I wonder if it's because it's something that you've grown up with and you have a different relationship to it than I do. Because I want more of this in this show. I want it to be more adult and more grounded.
But this hasn't been adult. This has been childish about it. This is a kind of childish innuendo and double entendre kind of thing. This is lowest common denominator.
Are you saying...
This is Finbar Saunders and his double entendres and Viz magazine. And I tell you something, that's not aimed at an adult audience.
Are you saying that adult men and women in a married sense, when it comes to sex, never say...
Why are you suddenly trying to go into the macro here?
Never
I'm talking
say...
about the micro in this specific example in this show.
But this is what I'm saying.
It doesn't matter if it's in any other show.
But that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying...
Going the carry-on route isn't really the way to go for me.
But it's not really going the carry-on route.
It is, because it's a staring into the camera when you're saying hard and when you're saying come. And is that what we're passing? That's humour now? In this show, that's where we're getting our laughs from. We can't get laughs from anything else. We've got to go down this route.
But we do get laughs from other things, because it's only these two very specific characters, where before it used to be it was Kirk and Beth who were making all the double entendres and stuff, and we loved it. But we don't love it.
They weren't making double entendres though, because Kirk's not intelligent enough to make a double entendre.
Well, no, but he says things that we acknowledge as double entendres. But anyway,
we are
saying,
a month away from having somebody use a Swanee whistle when Tim is in the hot tub to, he's got an erection. Whoop.
No, that's not going to happen.
Of course it's not going to happen.
But listen. In real life, married couples make jokes like this all the time with one another.
Say something to me that doesn't have the comeback. This isn't real life.
The purpose of this show, from the very beginning, the inspiration from this show was to have a show about real people in real situations. Things like this happen in real situations with real adults who are married to one another, who've been married for a long time, and make goofy jokes about sex and say goofy things like this to one another that may appear childish, but when it's just the two of them alone, it's just meant to be playful and funny.
Yeah, and then
we do this.
And in real life, people go off and do a shit. I don't want to watch that either.
And yet you claim that it's happened over and over and over again on coffee tables on this show.
It just so happens that this week it did.
Moving on.
I don't mind the Tim's Boaby storyline.
Moving on.
Just don't try and make it funny like this.
Moving on.
Our next storyline this morning is Homeless Daughterless Stu. Last week, Homeless Stu's latest package to his daughter is returned.
But thank God, not beardless.
Which knocks him for 6. He ends up getting pished on the job, leaving Zeedan to cover for him, and then he takes a shit on the coffee table. On Monday, outside Speed Dial, Stephen ticks off another old bit of skirt when he's introduced to Yasmin. And Yasmin seems to be quite taken by the accent as well. Along comes Homeless Stu with some coffees, and Yasmin tells him how impressed Zeedan was with him yesterday, working his fingers to the bone. So in Speed Dial, Homeless Stu thanks Zeedan for covering for his drunkenness yesterday, but after everything he and Yasmin have been through, he's going to have to throw Z under the bus by confessing what really happened to his gran. So later, Homeless Stu explains to Yasmin about being pished out of his stitch yesterday and Zeedan was covering for him. Homeless Stu, though, takes full responsibility. Yasmin is happy to overlook it given the problems that he's got with his daughter.
Right.
And to complete the loop later, Yasmin has a word with Zeedan about covering for Homeless Stu. Yasmin thinks it's sweet, and Zeedan is happy that Homeless Stu makes her happy. A good heart these days is hard to find, says Yasmin, suddenly sounding like Fergal Sharkey. And that's as far as we get with that this week.
It's weird that nothing ever came of that conversation with Stephen about having dinner there. Isn't it?
Yeah, because they went to the bistro, didn't they?
Yeah, there's this whole conversation about, wanting to eat at Speed Doll and everything. And this introducing Stephen to Yasmin. And then nothing. And now Stephen's gone.
You're not going to introduce Stephen to Yasmin for Stephen just to go.
And-
There really is no point to that then.
And yet that's what happened.
So I don't think Stephen's really gone then.
I don't think so either. Oh, God. Are we going to have like a love triangle between Yasmin, Stephen, and Tim's mum?
And Homeless Stu.
Oh, God. That would be a square. As long as it ends up with Yasmin and Tim's mum hooking up, I'm happy.
Okay,
I'm fine with it.
good.
Please make that happen.
Looks like we're going to get Homeless Stu's daughter. We don't mention her this many times without her.
Right. Eventually showing up.
Right. Just kind of like
Telling him
Candyman
to fuck off.
in that respect. Right.
Right.
So what happened was that Stu kept on sending packages to his daughter. He never heard anything back, never got any thanks. But now one has been returned, so either his daughter's moved,
Right.
or his daughter's just
Refused
wrote
it.
return to sender on
Yeah.
it. And yeah, so I figure we're going to find out a little bit more about Homeless Stu's
Previous life.
background and family deal.
Which would be nice.
Yeah. All right, let's move on then to our next storyline, which is Up on the Roof.
Up on the
Last
roof.
week, number one ceiling is still leaking. Steve has a go at Jacob and refuses Ed's help. He Googles how to fix a roof, but shits his pants when he gets on the second rung of the ladder. He ends up hiring the husband of one of the taxi hires, promising to pay him cash. The husband takes $3,000 up front from Steve for materials and then he never shows up. Steve later pays the scaffolder up front as well, who does arrive though and throws up enough scaffold to repaint the Statue of Liberty outside number one.
And then fucks off.
Right. Well, he's done his job.
Right.
On Wednesday, Aggie is sick to the back teeth with the scaffolding outside the house. Ed is adamant that it's got fuck all to do with him if Steve has employed a cowboy.
As is Michael. Michael is pissed off by the scaffolding too because
we
he
saw
has
Michael.
to push. Yeah, we got to see Michael. He looks like he's lost a little weight, but and got a haircut, and he has to like push the baby in the stroller on the cobbles because of the scaffolding.
Aggie doesn't care and tells Ed to sort it. Pronto, tonto. Later in the pub, Ed is having a pint with Paul and Aggie. She asks Steve when his builder's going to shop, which triggers Steve and Ed to get laid into each other. Aggie breaks it up and tells Steve he'll fix the roof for mates rates. Ed is fuming, but Steve seems oddly relieved that he won't be murdered by Tracy now. Or at least, not for that. With that settled, Ronnie comes along to pitch a new opportunity to Ed and Paul. He's picked up a piece of land on the cheap with room for 3 houses. He's going to put the money down and he just needs Ed and Paul to do the work. They will make a killing. And after a few libations to celebrate, Paul has some fancy ideas to make the place more appealing, like a communal garden with barbecue area, which makes room for another house. They're all pissed when Aggie comes along. Aggie, Aggie, Aggie.
Oi, oi, oi.
Oh, that is a thing over here. I was wondering if it was. She's unimpressed that once again it seems that Ed is investing time and money into something that won't materialise one of Ronnie's harebrained schemes. On Friday, Debbie visits Ed and tries to book him for a job fixing the electrics at the Rape Hotel. It's today or never though. Aggie puts a kibosh on that, or at least tries, telling Ed that he has to sort out Steve's roof first. So there's a conflict between Ed and Paul and Ronnie about the priority of Debbie's job, and once Paul learns that it's mates rates, he fucks off to the Rape Hotel with Ronnie. Steve decides to accuse Ed of ripping him off, which is weird because it's mates rates and he's not actually paid him anything yet.
No.
So that
and he's
sends-
already been ripped off by somebody else.
So that sends Ed off too. At the Rape Hotel, Ronnie is still going on about the development, which he reckons will earn them all 80 grand each. Ed is out thanks to Aggie, and Debbie comes along and it looks like it's a bigger snag list now that people have learned that they're coming in to fix things. So up in the room, Ed is fixing a radiator when somehow he gets electrocuted and dies. No, he doesn't. But he's... Well,
He does.
As best as he can,
He does
flies across
fly
the room.
back onto the bed and then rolls off.
Right.
As if dead. Mm-hmm. It reminded me of Nigel Havers, who also died in a bedroom.
Ed, says Paul twice,
Ed.
like that.
Ed.
Aggie learns from Steve that Ed is at the rape hotel rather than being up on his roof. She's about as pissed off as he is until she gets a call from Ronnie explaining about Ed being electrocuted. Aggie rushes to the hospital where Ed is smoking with the sleeves of his shirt burnt up to the elbows and his hair all standing up.
And steam coming out of his ears.
And Debbie arrives at the hospital too, Ronnie explaining that the electrics at the rape hotel are fucked, and she reveals that their safety certificates are not up to date since Ray Weinstein left.
Right.
So Aggie gets some water for Ed, which isn't recommended. You never put water on an electrical fire. Ed has bandaged mittens.
Oh, no.
But he seems okay otherwise, but maybe he won't be playing piano anytime soon. Debbie sticks her head in, and immediately Aggie starts talking about compensation when she learns that Debbie is the owner of the chain of rape hotels. And that's as far as we get with that this week.
Yes.
I am all in for Debbie
Versus
and
Aggie.
Head to head.
Ding, 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 ding. And Ronnie and Ed just standing back and letting their women fight their battles for them.
Right. Maybe giving themselves a quick wee footer as this goes on. But yeah, these
Thinking
two...
of investing in a mud wrestling pit for that communal garden.
Debbie is understandably cautious to apologise for anything if it's not necessarily their fault. That's why she wants to have an investigation. She also wants to brush it under the carpet.
Right.
But Aggie's having absolutely none of this.
it.
And it's interesting to see Debbie not with the upper hand.
Right.
And she's very much the subservient in this little fight so far. But you know that Debbie's got teeth and claws and is very much capable of looking after herself, as has Aggie. But the two of them going head to head. I mean, you talk about Eileen and Gail. These two are
better.
This is the fight of the decade.
Yes.
These two go head to head.
Right. It's Rocky and that Russian all over again.
Right. I'm already disappointed that it's not going to turn out like this, but
No.
at the moment that looks like it's how it's going to go, and I'm in for that.
Yes. I'm just glad that the Baileys are involved in storylines that have nothing to do with racism yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or Aggie being abused by her boss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that didn't turn out to be anything though.
Right, yeah.
That was a Peter storyline, remember?
Yeah, right,
We brought
yes.
in Aggie to start a Peter storyline.
Right, yes. We built a storyline for a man on top of a woman suffering. Like that never happens in this show.
I'll never catch on.
No.
All right, moving on. Our next storyline
Speaking
is...
of which...
You get a storyline, you get a storyline, Sean gets a storyline.
We all get a storyline.
Last week, Todd and The Undertaker try to coax a violent reaction out of Frank to prove that he's a bully, but Frank is totally reasonable when Todd basically throws iced tea down Frank's shirt. George overhears Frank reenact a scene from The Gangs in New York down the phone to someone for some reason and assumes that this is Frank being a bully again. George warns Sean off, but when it all gets cleared up, Sean promises never to doubt Frank again, which makes Frank look shifty. So up until that point, we're thinking, well, Frank's
A pretty decent guy.
Frank's a decent guy. He's an older guy. The days of being a school bully are well in his past, and he's not that person anymore. But that shifty look kind of suggests otherwise. So on Friday, Sean is excited about the return of Dylan, because Dylan's coming back.
Yay.
Frank seems disinterested, and Sean seems worried about this, and Helen also seems disinterested. Then Dylan arrives at Nina's Rolls. He's tall now, he's chatty, and he assumes that George is Sean's boyfriend. It seems like he's had a character transplant.
Well, he's not as moody as he was the last time,
No,
but
he's not.
he's a little bit older, a little bit wiser. And this is what happens with teenagers. They're one person 1 minute, and they're a completely different person
There we
5 minutes later.
In comes Sean to set the record straight. Dylan will get to meet Frank later. But
And
that's-
Dylan thinks it's really cool that The Undertaker is an Undertaker,
Right.
and asks him what's the grossest thing he's ever seen, which I don't think is something that you want to ask an Undertaker.
No, I imagine they see very gross things on several
Daily
times
basis.
in a day, right? So I'm not sure how Frank has got the wrong end of the stick, but he's got the wrong end of the stick because Eileen's been talking about having a dinner to celebrate Dylan coming back, but Frank's gone and booked a table for him and Sean, thinking that Sean won't be part of the dinner for Dylan or something. I don't know. Frank has got the wrong end of the stick, and so leaves, allowing Sean and Dylan to spend some time together, and Sean is kind of confused by this. Eileen's dinner for the house wasn't shepherd's pie or cottage pie. It was Cumberland pie, according to George.
And it's hilarious because we've had this conversation in this very house.
Every time I make shepherd's pie, we have this conversation.
Right, because it's never shepherd's
It's never
pie.
shepherd's
It's
pie.
always cottage pie.
Well, it's usually Cumberland pie, because I always put a little bit of cheese on the
Yeah.
tatties.
And
That
it's
sounds pretty good, actually.
and it's further complicated by the fact that here in America, when we make cottage pie or shepherd's pie, we use different vegetables than you do.
Put sweet corn in it, you fucking animals. Everyone tells him.
It's delicious.
Everyone tells George to fuck off, Eileen calling him Captain of the Pie Police. Well, there's a title for an episode. Talk turns to Frank's absence, Sean insisting that he probably didn't want to overwhelm Dylan, a grown boy, and Todd's like, well,
It's
he's
only
been
one
speaking
person.
to George and me, and he's not overwhelmed, and he thinks that maybe Frank has given them all a swerve, and Sean is like, no, not my Frank. But
Right.
then looks, yeah, my Frank. What's going on there? Still maybe thinking about what the Undertaker said to him a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. You know what I like the best about this whole scene?
Absolutely nothing.
Todd and the Undertaker with the tea towels on their shoulders,
Doing the dishes.
doing the dishes.
Yeah.
It's so cute. I love it so much.
Yeah.
More of that, please.
Right.
More of men doing dishes and having healthy relationships with one another. Please.
Yeah, we're going in the direction of Frank really being a... Because he's avoiding Dylan. I think that's clear, right? He's avoiding this whole family thing and thinking that it's too soon to meet Dylan and stuff.
And you know what? He's not necessarily wrong about that. I mean, how long have they been dating? Has it been a month?
Yeah.
But then just a month, right?
Well,
It hasn't been very long, and I don't know.
yeah, but you're like 10 feet away from the kid, standing outside on the doorstep.
Right.
You're not
but,
going to stick your head in and say hello.
but still, you should be a little cautious about introducing your kids to your partners.
Not
if-
Sean.
Well, no, but maybe Frank is being the more adult of the two of them by saying, maybe it's a little too soon for me to be meeting your kid.
It's certainly coming across as being pretty suspicious. And I think we're led to think it's more suspicious by Frank's shiftiness and by Sean looking concerned about something.
I don't know. I believe the whole Sean looking concerned about thing. I didn't really think that Frank seemed shifty. It seemed like it looked to me like he was uncomfortable with the whole situation. And maybe that's it. Some people don't like kids.
Right.
Some people don't want to meet, their partner's kid if they don't know if they're going to be with their partner for very long or if this kid is going to become a major part of their life or anything. So I'm not all that bothered. Granted, I didn't see the stuff
Yeah, you missed the shifty look.
last week, and it may not, and even that may not have looked like a shifty look to me. I mean, you thought that Wendy looked
I would have,
okay
without a doubt.
because you thought Wendy looked shifty a couple of weeks ago, and I said I didn't get that vibe from her, and it turns out that she wasn't shifty.
I think we were meant to think that she was perhaps shifty, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
In fact, we'll get to that
Right now.
as we talk about Wendy, Flamin, Crozier.
Yay!
Just some scenes on Friday, there's no lead up to that. At Wendy's, Abby assumes that every time Wendy types on her computer, it's something bad about her. Wendy has had this up to her tits and suggests that they go to the park to get Abby to shut up. Back from their walk, Wendy is about to make roasted cheese, but they're out of bread, so she nips out, which allows Abby to hack into Wendy's laptop to read the comments.
Why does nobody ever password protect anything on
Ever,
this show
unless that's important.
to the plot?
But Wendy's forgotten, I don't know, her tampons or whatever, so she comes back and catches Abby in the act.
Yes, because that's what Wendy needs right now.
Right.
Tampons.
Oh, I'm going to the shops without my tampons, but where is my mind? I thought you were on my side, says Abby, who has the fucking nerve to be offended by this. And she remains indignant until Wendy goes through her whole report and points out that there's far more positive adjectives used than negative ones. And her
Right.
whole report is going to recommend that she gets custody of Alfie.
And she uses Control F to teach Abby a lesson, which
Yeah.
I'm sure you loved.
Yeah, it made me think of what my favourite keyboard shortcut is.
Yay.
It's Control Shift and using the cursor keys to select large areas of Excel.
Oh,
What's your favourite keyboard shortcut?
Control P.
To print?
Yes.
Somebody said on Twitter that their favourite was Alt F4 to shut this shit down. So that was quite funny.
I also like Control Alt Delete. I feel like that's a very clean way to shut everything down.
The Windows key and M to minimise everything. That's a good one.
Oh, yeah.
And the Windows Shift M to bring everything back up again.
Ooh.
Is the reverse of that.
Yes. Which is funny because is that really a shortcut when you're pushing 3 keys where 1 key would do?
Well, it is a shortcut because
cooking.
the alternative is clicking on every window to minimise it.
Yeah, I suppose.
I'll venture forth and say there's no suppose about it.
Anyway.
So, Wendy tells Abby to stop focusing on her own shortcomings, although she's kind of enabling Abby to continue this behaviour. It seems at this point that there's no other reason for Wendy to be back in the show, which seems a bit of a shame. So again, it's the third one. We've got Spider coming back and then leaving. We've got Stephen coming back and then perhaps leaving. And then we've got Wendy Flamin Crozier coming back and sounding like this is the only reason that she's here.
But we know better.
She's not talked to Ken yet. She needs to talk to Ken.
She'll talk to Ken.
How do you feel about Abby getting the recommendation about custody then?
Well, we knew it was going to happen sooner or later. So,
Yeah.
but Wendy's not wrong. This is the part of Abby's problem is that Abby doesn't love Abby. Abby doesn't see any self-worth in herself, and that's why she's constantly doing things to undermine herself. And it's nice that somebody finally acknowledges that instead of just telling her to think positive or
Stop taking drugs.
right. You know, this is like the first real decent advice she's gotten in a long time. Because, you know, Kev isn't very smart when it comes to women, and Roy's not very smart when it comes to emotions.
Yeah, I liked how Wendy delivered it. Putting in those keyboard shortcuts made it sound kind of more passive-aggressive than it really was. But I liked that passive aggression.
I didn't take it as passive aggression. I just thought it was just a great way to illustrate the point that she uses more positive words than negative words in describing Abby. And she's saying it in a way that will finally get through to Abby instead of saying, oh no, I think you're great. You know, she's proving it by pointing out how many times she uses these positive words.
Right.
And then Abby, of course, just still focuses on the negative.
Yeah.
Because she's Abby.
I'm just kind of disappointed that no one seemed to get any roasted cheese at the end of all that. Anyway.
It happened off screen, just like the shits on the coffee table.
Oh, they went off screen. The camera was underneath the coffee table. No. Obviously, right? God, a number of times. Be creative with how you're showing this. Our final
so many
storyline.
ass cracks.
Our final storyline this morning is Red Pilled and Rose Gold from last week.
Well done.
Or the week before. Maria's environmental stance puts the binman on strike, and someone retaliates by posting deep fake revenge porn pics of Maria online. Her response just makes things worse, and she gets doxxed by this character called Red Pilled 100, who I suspect might be Max. Maria gives a press conference to quell the strike, but Gary attacks a binman he suspects is Red Pilled 100. She wants to quit until Sally talks around, but the online abuse seems to continue. And then Gary takes up... No.
Now...
I'm a sexist because no woman has taken a shit on the coffee table yet.
No.
Okay, Maria does it.
I said no.
Oh, sorry. I hear what I want to hear.
Was that part of the revenge porn? Was it 1 cup, 2 Marias?
Yikes. Don't Google that.
That's leading way back.
That is the Wayback Machine. The Wayback porn machine. It's not even porn, really, is it? It's just...
In Germany, it is. Hello to our German fans. So we've offended the Canadians and the Germans today.
Right.
We're batting 100.
Yeah, that invite to the UN Council is still pending. All right.
We couldn't do any worse.
On Monday, at the Rose Gold flat, Maria has got the strike sorted out and hopes the trolls have had enough now. She heads off to work and Kelly goes along to keep her company. At work, Kelly has her bag and heads off on a wee secret mission pretending to go for coffees. Addie distracts Maria's suspicions by asking for a hot shave despite not having any facial hair. Later, Addie and Kelly have a word outside. Addie kind of asks Kelly out, and as she's knocking them back, a big wad of £20 notes falls out of her handbag. And what the fuck, says Addie. Kelly rushes off and he chases after her, wondering why a teenage girl would be walking around with such a massive wad.
And I like that.
In Nina's roles, Kelly explains about the money that Gary found at her dad's house. Well, actually, it was Paul and Ed that found it. Kelly found a list of names and addresses in the bag that Gary hadn't seen, and she's been spending the last month or so going round the houses giving this money back to people that Rick the Chin ripped off. Addie suspects that Gary knows nothing about this activity, and that's how this is going to stay, capiche? Insists Kelly. Addie thinks it's a terrible idea. And so with this niggling in her head, she goes back to the house and she tries to tell Gary and Maria about the money, but the two of them are too busy chatting about the trolling situation.
Right.
So Kelly says, fuck it, and goes to bed.
Yes.
On Wednesday, Gary heads off to work, which gives Maria anxiety as she's been invited to a council function to clear the air with the binman, so Kelly insists that she can cancel her plans to get a free lunch with her. Mm-hmm. And the function is at Debbie's Rape Hotel.
Yay.
Before the electrics are all fucked up.
Right.
Kelly nips off to get a burger on a stick, but not like that. Mm-hmm. And after a fellow female counsellor gives Maria her backing, the creepy prick that Gary twatted at the last press conference comes over and vaguely and then explicitly threatens Maria and her green agenda. Kelly comes to the rescue and tells the prick to do one. So after
that's the head union guy for the bin men, isn't it? The one that she had that meeting with initially.
It was definitely the guy
who was like, "No, I want to speak to your boss." She's like, "No, I am the boss."
Right.
Yeah, it's that guy, isn't it? I think so.
After the burger on a stick, Kelly has to nip off for a shite, which allows another creep to come over to harass Maria. He recognises her from somewhere pornographic, and Maria insists it was just a deep fake where the guy starts to rub the top of his legs and makes a whoa face.
Yeah.
Maria runs off just as Kelly finishes her shite, and the two of them leave. On the way home, Kelly now fucks off to the co-op, and I'm starting to suspect Kelly here. Maria is on the phone to Gary when she gets a weird notification on her phone letting her know that there's a tracking device on her. Panicking, Maria suddenly sees the prick from the press conference and the porno prick coming towards her from either sides of the street, and she has a panic attack. She pours the contents of her bag onto the street, searching for the tracker, when she senses someone behind her, and I've written pepper sprays the guy, and it turns out to be the Undertaker. You think it's hairspray.
Yeah, because
probably
he would have to go to the hospital if it was pepper spray, because that was really close.
Yeah, it was quite a bit of it.
Right.
George is quick to recover from this potentially blinding attack from Maria. She explains the situation to him, and the two of them retire to Nina's rolls to have a better look at the contents of her bag.
And Nina helps.
And it's Nina who identifies the device because she's young and hip. Maria doesn't think there's any way to turn it off, so she throws it to the floor and smashes it with her shoe, reckoning it was planted on her at lunch. Back home, Maria fills Gary in.
But not like that.
And then explains what happened. She had to do it one more time.
You did.
He suggests going to the police and is gutted to learn that Maria smashed the tracker earlier with a shoe on the floor of Nina's rolls. He reckons that the person who tracked her must know that they've been rumbled now, and Maria and Gary know that they know that they know that they know.
Right.
The police are worse than useless because this kind of shite apparently is legal. It's legal to plant a tracker on someone so long as you don't have any nefarious...
Without their consent, yeah.
As long as you don't have any nefarious designs on it.
Well, apparently, it appears that revenge porn is also legal in the UK.
I think it's nefarious just planting the tracker on in the first place. Just the action of it is enough.
Revenge porn is illegal here in the United States. You will get charged for things like that. But in the UK, apparently it's fine.
I didn't think it was, but it certainly seems a bit muddy at best.
Yeah, and this whole, it's okay for somebody... The device itself is not illegal, obviously. Because it's like that thing that you bought me a couple of years ago that I've never used for my keys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are legal. But it should be illegal to put that on someone you don't know or without their consent. This is a consent issue.
Yeah. The police need proof that there was intent to harm. Maria explains about the death threats. The police need proof that there was intent to harm. Maria explains about the two dodgy blokes at the function, one of whom Gary has assaulted at the press conference. And the police promise to look into it, but they have their fingers crossed and are sniggering behind their hands. Back home, Kelly's kicking herself that she keeps missing all the excitement. They have to pretend everything is normal when Liam comes back, still bald from his Captain Picard cosplay from the other week. Oh yeah, you missed that. They dressed up as Star Trek for for Liam's birthday.
I missed that.
Well, don't know if you missed it. You didn't see it, put it that way. While everyone is off getting pizza for tea, Maria secretly calls the school to advise them that Liam won't be in class tomorrow.
Did he look similar to, remember when The Big Bang Theory did that? And it was Leonard who was dressed up as Captain Picard, the shortest person in the group.
It was very much based on that, yeah.
Yeah. Who was Data?
Kelly was Spock. I don't think anyone was Data.
Boo.
Kelly was Spock. Gary was a red shirt, I think.
Was he Scotty? Scotty wears a red shirt. He's the only red shirt who lives.
I don't know.
Because he's Scottish.
I don't know. And this line of questioning is making me want to rip my eyes out. On Friday, Kelly's up and bright and breezy, and she's stuffing envelopes full of cash. Gary doesn't seem to notice. She says that she has a day off for a project. Meanwhile, Maria's calling in sick to work because Liam's not well, which is news to everyone. And Gary correctly suspects that this is tracker related. Addie runs into Kelly at the bus stop and they talk about her repayment scheme. She has to admit that Gary doesn't know anything about it. And then PC Tinker arrives at the Rose Gold flat. Liam assumes it's because he's dog in school, which I thought was quite funny, but it's actually about the trawler. The cops have had a word with him. This is a guy from the press conference, and PC Tinker wants to know if Maria is interested in taking this further, but it wasn't actually a crime to put the tracker in the bag. Frustrated, she tells PC Tinker to keep looking for the guy with the tracker, and I thought maybe it was a porno guy that was the guy that was really weird. But no,
Right.
It's the first guy because he actually threatened her.
Right, yeah. And that's the only thing that they've been able to prove is that he has made online threats. And that actually is, I guess, illegal in the UK.
When Gary learns about this, he's keen to celebrate. He's keen to celebrate the fact that they've warned the guy, I think.
Right. And I liked that the conversation with PC Tinker and Maria, I really liked how that went. That, he said, we can press charges if you're interested in pressing charges. And Maria's like, of course I want to press charges. Why wouldn't I? Because that's a real life conversation right there. With the cops like, are you sure you want to press charges? Do you really want to ruin this guy's life? Or is this really important?
It's a lot of paperwork for me if you really want to go and do this. Do you really want to?
Are you sure you really want to, call to justice this guy who did something, who terrorized you? Yes, of course I do.
Yes, please.
Yes, please. Now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's keen to, Gary that is, keen to celebrate. So he coerces Maria to agree to a pub lunch. All the while, the weirdo from the press conference is loitering in a bush outside. Back from town.
Not like that.
No, exactly like that. Addie has been walking around with Kelly as she hands out money to people with hot dog tattoos. Before he can do any more, Evelyn comes along to complain about having to cover for him, so he gives her double time for another few hours, and this lets Addie insist on a milkshake from Kelly for his help.
But not like that. Yeah. Sadly, not one of them has a taco turtle tattoo.
Nobody, I think. I think you're probably the only person in the world to have a taco turtle tattoo. I think most people
turtle taco
listening to this would have no idea what we're talking about.
Well,
later, outside, Maria's accosted by the horrible press conference guy who gives her a hard time for calling the police. What about freedom of speech?
You're not in America.
This sends Maria back home, and before he can do anything to help, Gary gets a call from Sharon.
And also,
not that Sharon.
And also, freedom of speech doesn't mean that you can say whatever you want to anybody you want.
Newsflash.
It's that the government can't control what you say.
At Nina's Rose, Addie asks Kelly out for a curry later. Kelly agrees, and as Addie is trying to figure out if this is really a date, Kelly gets a call from Sharon now, and she leaves. Sharon has grassed up Kelly to Gary, and he's furious. And at this, Kelly comes in, and Gary wastes no time in being furious at her. This has to stop, yells Gary. You're not my fucking dad, yells Kelly. And she runs off, and it's not clear why she came back in the first place. But she came back to get changed for the date.
Yes.
So she bumps into Addie outside and fills him in.
But not like that.
He's glad their date is still on, but wonders if she's going to dress up, and she fucks off without answering. Back at the flat, Gary is sorry for the upset given Maria isn't having the best of days, but suggests that he goes off to try and find her. Maria rightly thinks that he'll just make matters worse, but Gary is untalkdownable. He leaves, and Maria immediately locks the door. Gary goes off into Dev's looking for Kelly, but finds Addie comparing shirts. He explains about his date with Kelly later, but doesn't know where she is at the minute. And Gary seems pleased and wishes him luck.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Kelly is knocking on the door in a dodgy as fuck part of town. She gives some money to a Phill Mitchell lookalike who knows that she's Rick Nealon's daughter somehow, and as soon as she's gone, he gets on the phone, presumably to Grant Mitchell, to say, "You're never going to believe who just knocked at my door." Addy arrives on time for his date with Kelly, but there's no sign of her, which I think the guy has got to turn up early, hasn't he?
Yeah, he was 2 minutes late.
Yeah, you've got to turn up early for that. Be a good guy. Later, Asha comes in to speed dial and sees Addy, who thinks that he might have been stood up. Kelly is an hour and 20 minutes late. Yeah, you're definitely stood up.
Yeah, and he's got some stuff on his shirt.
Orange, was it mango chutney or something?
Yes, it was chutney.
He's worried that his
Also,
comment...
Ryan is very cute in this scene.
Yeah, because he's
bucking-
been there and done that, right?
Bucking Addy up.
He's worried that his comment about her changing clothes has put her off. So, meanwhile...
And
Gary,
Asha says, it's like you've never talked to a woman before.
Gary gets back from his search. It's been in vain, and now he's feeling guilty about leaving Marie on her own, but she's been cheered up by a message from her mum or something about a little girl who's been inspired by her election win and has run for class president. Whatever. This convinces Maria to go back to work. So Maria's been convinced to go back to work now over the last couple of weeks by Sally and now by an anonymous little girl.
Do they have class presidents in the United Kingdom? Wouldn't it be class prime minister?
No. Gary is more relaxed because he expects Kelly is with Addy at speed dial. But she's not there.
No. And
She's-
she didn't come home to change, which Maria thinks is odd.
She's been thrown into a dungeon and is now at the mercy of Buffalo Bill from The Silence of the Lambs, the Grabber from Black Phone, or Kevin Spacey. Just Kevin Spacey.
Right.
And that's how we end this week's episodes.
So, somehow, that dodgy guy
Yeah.
was able to contact someone on the phone, get together with that person, find out where Kelly has gone, grabbed her, and thrown her in a basement.
Fashioned a dungeon. Or maybe let's give them the benefit and say that the dungeon was pre-existing.
Right. And already had a skanky mattress in it.
Got to have a skanky mattress. It's not a dungeon if you don't have a skanky mattress. That's the rule.
You know what?
What?
It's shocking this hasn't happened already. With Kelly going by herself to go to these people
For a
in
month.
dodgy neighborhoods, dodgy people, and handing them money.
From a bag that presumably has
more money in it.
Right.
It's shocking this hasn't happened already.
I
As
agree.
much as I don't want Kelly to ever have any more problems, because for Christ's sake, she's buried both of her parents this year. Let's go easy. And she's been homeless. Let's go easy on the kid.
But I don't get how street smart Kelly doesn't realise how much danger she's in doing this.
Right. And didn't realize that she was being followed and didn't know how to get away from those people.
And she has been doing this for months because we saw her,
Yeah.
before we went on vacation, going into the tram station with the bag.
Right.
And it was never talked about.
Right.
So we presume that this has been happening
Right.
quite a bit in the interim here.
I do have to say, though, Addy and Kelly, not
Yeah,
mad at it.
Yeah, it works.
Not mad at it. It works.
It works.
It works. It works. I would much rather he be with Kelly than Summer. Summer doesn't deserve him.
You know the problem with Addy and Summer is they're both kind of on the same level. They're both intellectual,
How
right?
dare you say that about my Addy?
Intellectually, they're
How
both
dare you.
kind of on the same level. But here, they're with Kelly, they're two very different characters. Because Addy is a kind of more quiet, reserved sort, I think. A bit more bookish. And Kelly is definitely not that.
I don't see Addy as being bookish. He's smart.
He is constantly going about with his spreadsheets. He's working out rotas and stuff like that.
Right, but that's work. That's not nerd.
At that age, I think that's kind of bookish.
I guess so. They both have a good sense of humor, Addy and Kelly, and they play off of one another quite well.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I think they've got enough differences about them as well as enough in
Similarities.
common to make it work.
Yes.
So they have that chemistry.
And I'm not even sorry for Simon. He will never get his hole off of Kelly.
Or let's face
Anyone
it,
else.
anyone. There is
Yeah.
an incel story that is going to happen at some point there.
Yeah, Simon and Max.
And,
They're gonna form the Manchester branch of the Proud Boys at one of these days.
Yeah, the PC Tinker leading the procession. because he's the one of them who did get his hole.
Right.
So that makes him a god in their eyes.
Right. Yeah. Addie and Kelly. May it continue because
I like
I ain't
that.
mad at it.
So who's kidnapped Kelly and why?
People who don't know that Rick the Chin is dead and are going to try to ransom her to Rick the Chin, who is dead.
Well, that's going to drag on for a bit.
So how did...
Maybe it's the kidnappers that are going to solve this. Maybe the kidnappers, so determined to find Rick the Chin, and
Rick the
managed
Chin's-
to pin it on Gary.
Rick the Chin's already been found.
Oh yeah, I keep on forgetting that.
He's already been buried properly now.
Yeah.
That's the funeral we got to see.
That's why that was allowed to happen.
That's the funeral we were
right.
allowed to see.
That's right.
Gary's going to kill again.
Begin again?
Gary's going to kill again. And so is Tracy.
Who's
She's
Gary
gonna-
going to kill? Oh, Gary's going to kill the Phill Mitchell lookalike.
And Tracy's going to kill Steve.
Do you think that's why it is good? Well, I guess Phill Mitchell says you are Rick the Chin's daughter.
Right.
Now, how he knows that?
Because she's like, I know that you and my dad did some dealings.
Oh, that's
and
right.
And he owed you money. So here is the money that he owed you.
I wonder why this guy's still got a beef about it, because he hasn't paid anything to anybody in years.
Right.
He's not got over that, clearly.
Yeah. So it feels like there's something else going on there. But again,
Is it
I'm
because
shocked.
Kelly is an attractive young lady? Has that got something to do with
I
it?
don't think so. It better not, because
I really hope it doesn't.
I can't deal with another sexual assault on the show. I really can't.
No, and I don't know who the guy is that would learn something about himself in that scenario. Addie?
Gary.
Maybe
Well,
Gary.
Gary's already learned something about himself by causing the death of a young woman,
Yeah,
and also being a very bad partner to Maria, and now being a very good partner to Maria.
he's a good guy. He's a good guy now.
He's a good guy now.
Yeah, I'm thinking this is maybe a bigger storyline then
Yeah.
that's about to kick off here.
Yeah.
You don't think a kidnapping's going to get... Not if they've built a dungeon set and secured the services of a pishy mattress.
Right.
They put some effort into creating this thing.
That window's cracked.
Where is it? Where is it?
That window is cracked, though. So I have a feeling she could get out if she put some effort into it. Maybe this
Touched it.
Maybe this is the British version of the black phone.
But Kelly
Yeah,
needs
can
to
we-
catch a break.
Can we please leave Kelly alone now?
Why is there always a woman that needs to catch a break? Whether it's Nina or Abby
Or Kelly. Or Maria.
or Yasmin.
Or Audrey. Or Shona. Or Gail. Or Rita. Or Daisy.
No, Rita.
Rita was trapped under a tree.
Well, that's hardly can't catch a break.
She can't catch a break
She has
because
a-
she's under
She has
a
a
tree.
seasonal accident. Maria, on the periphery of this, seems to be having the makings of some kind of agoraphobic reaction to her trolling, where she's now terrified of going out and being alone. Which is that the opposite of agoraphobic?
No, it's agoraphobic.
What's agoraphobic? Is that the
The fear of
irrational
being
fear
angry?
the rational fear of goat's wool.
That would be angoraphobic.
Oh, thank you very much. That's this week's joke.
Tara thought it was shitting on tables.
No. It's just a blunt fact.
It does seem like her anxiety is ramped up, but it doesn't feel irrational
No.
to me.
But these things become irrational. They have a very real trigger, but 6 months down the line, when this is no longer an issue, she still has fear about going out. That becomes more irrational, doesn't
we'll
it?
see. We'll see if that happens.
I don't know. We plant these seeds and then we think, well, they're not going to make a story out of that, and then they make a story out of that. So I think they have a bit of form here. Anyway, that was the week that was Coronation Street. And I think we're going to maybe get this under 2 hours, which is remarkable.
Yes.
What was your moment of the week? You forgot you had to do this.
No. It's just. Is it Addie and Kelly flirting?
No.
It's kind of my moment of the week because I ain't mad at it.
Is it Ed being electrocuted?
It's not Ed being electrocuted.
Okay. Is it Homeless Stu getting drunk?
Is it Phill holding up the boombox outside the factory? No, it's not.
Because I kind of think it was.
It's Phill. It's Phill and Tyrone in the honeymoon suite with Tyrone with the mud mask on and showing off his tattoo. No, it's Phill holding up the boombox in the street. Because that's actually a good movie. Unlike...
Is it?
Unlike fucking Love Actually, which is the worst movie in the history of movies.
Oh, sure. People love that movie.
Except for RoboDog.
People love that movie.
I know. And it infuriates me that people think that's romantic. Those are the same people that think Thomas Jefferson and Sally Hemings were romantic. Or
I'm sure there's people who like Love Actually who have no idea who either of those people are.
There are people in the world who don't know who Thomas Jefferson is.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
And that he raped his slave.
Well, if you don't know who he is, then you don't know what he's done. So I think the people who know about the rape aspect of Thomas Jefferson are fewer than the number of people who know who Thomas Jefferson is.
Probably. Anyway.
Probably.
Do you think everybody...
Oh, sorry, we've had the moment this
What
week
is your...
where Helen agrees with me.
What is your boring moment of the week?
See, I kind of think that this is your job. I never think about this too much.
Is it Phill doing the Love Actually part?
No.
Is it Tim watching porn?
No.
Is it Tim typing in adult movies onto Voggle?
No, that's the ridiculous moment of the week. I found the Abby and Wendy stuff kind of dull.
No, that was sweet.
Was it?
I liked it.
Sally's podcast with Sting. That was kind of funny.
Abby describing how to make toasted cheese.
Wrongly.
Yeah.
I don't know what she added to it, but that's not roasted cheese that she's making.
Well, it was cheese on top of cheese.
See, that does sound good. Oh, do you know what? It's David going on about fucking Stephen.
Yes. Okay, good. Yes. I can agree to that.
I never hit the button for the moment of the week.
Oh, well.
Say what the moment of the week is again.
Phill and his boombox are the...
Moment of the week.
Our moment of the week.
And our boring moment of the week is...
David.
Being a...
prick about Steve. And
Boring moment of the week.
Stephen. Why would they do this to us?
That's... All right, then. This is taking a couple of hours, so let's wrap this one up.
Please.
If you want to hear more about our vacation.
Yes.
Which I can't imagine is the case.
Or hear us argue some more about Tim's Boaby.
This is a podcast for you. If you like arguing about Tim's Boaby. We're the talk of the street at gmail.com, and we're at Corrie Podcast on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. You can shout me and Helen a coffee by heading to ko-fi.com. That's ko-fi.com/the talk of the street. Check out the clicky section of voggle.co.uk for links to our merch store and YouTube channel. And if you're so inclined, please leave a rating and a review on the iTunes or your podcast provider of choice. Thanks for making it to the end of another episode, and we will be back next week with more
Talk of the Street.
The Talk of the Street.
Bye.
Cheerio.